All right, there we go. I think we're recording here. So welcome, and let's come over to our mat. So having a block handy. And we are going to start lying down without the block will be the default. But if you want to do the block under the shoulders, go ahead. And we're going to Supta Baddha Konasana. Feet together, knees out to the side, lying down. Like I said, if you really feel strongly you'd like that block under the shoulders for now, go ahead and put it there. All right. Calming down onto the floor. Taking a few moments, arranging your physical body, doing any little shifts and squinges there. And then we'll come to a place of a little more stillness. So choosing a position for your arms, maybe hands on the belly, backs of the hands on the floor, or possibly arms up overhead. Inhaling and exhaling. Feeling the back of the pelvis being a little heavier on the floor. Balancing evenly on the right and the left sides. Maybe a gentle drawing up through the core, out the top of the head, especially if your hips are a little tight and it tends to hyperextend the back, which is what happens to me. I'm doing an extreme version here at the moment. So I need to make a little intention to lengthen up through the core and keep that lower back from overarching. All right, so getting everything arranged and then bringing your attention to your breath. Inhale and exhale. Feel like you are letting go of controlling and directing, and you're just allowing that breath to get longer and deeper, giving it space. Checking for any tension in the face, in the jaw, as well as the rest of the body. And just a few more breaths here. And then sliding those legs out to straight, stretching the arms long overhead. And we'll bend the right leg in, pulling that thigh into the chest, reaching long down through the front of the left leg out the heel. Do a little pull into that crease of the hip joint as if you're pulling the crease of the hip joint down toward the sitting bone, even as you're pulling the knee a little towards your head. And then we'll release the right leg, stretch the arms up overhead again, And bending the left leg, pulling that in. Reaching long through the right leg out the heel. And then really feeling that crease of the left hip joint, like it's pulling in toward the sitting bone, even as you pull that knee towards your head. And extending the left leg out. Stretch the arms up overhead again, stretching long and flat against the floor. Maybe a little squinging. And then we will make our way up to sitting. And sitting in Sukhasana, the crossed legs. Using those arms alongside to lengthen up. And feeling space coming between those vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. And then slowly release with the arms, letting the hands rest on the knees, finding that long and spacious spine here. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, a little pouring down off the tops of the shoulders, lifting more through the top of the head. And then breathing those arms up, reaching wide, taking up as much space as you can. We'll bring the hands together, the base of the hands, the knuckles, the fingertips, as much bend in the elbows as you need to do a little press of the hands together there. And then drawing down the center line with a little bit of work, pressing the hands together, pulling the elbows wide, a little press forward with the pinky finger side of the hand, all the things we don't do when we bring them to the heart in Namaste. And then softening back, thumbs to the sternum, feeling that big contrast as we close our eyes. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Feeling that heart opening and going out through the fingertips there. And then at the same time, you want to be able to feel things coming in and into your heart. So that's why we don't want to be too strong and be defensive. We're receiving and giving. And then let's breathe those hands back up to the center line. So go back to that strong push, feeling the muscles coming up, keeping the hands together as long as you can, and then letting them peel apart, bringing the arms down wide to the side. And let's come forward, reaching wide and over. And then coming up, unfurling that spine, changing the cross of the legs. And once again, let's breathe those arms up. Inhaling and exhaling. So we're not going to bring the hands together. We're going to twist. Big inhale and exhale, floating the arms down. Left hand to the right knee, right hand to the floor. And lifting back up, arms come up, twisting left. Inhale and exhale, floating down. So we're working those arms a little more softly than we were yesterday doing this with the interlocked fingers. And then breathing back up, and we'll go back and forth in the jellyfish twist. Inhale and exhale, twist, arms float down. Inhale, arms float up, exhale, arms float down. And going on your own timing. Doesn't really matter how the breath is working underneath that. You just want to keep that wave of the breath going. It might take you 2 breaths. It might take you 3 breaths on each side. Relaxing the face, relaxing the jaw. And then notice, what are you lifting from? Is it the arms, or are you lifting from the base of the spine, and the arms follow a split second afterwards? That's sort of the one we want. Lift from underneath. Couple more times back and forth. And then we'll finish lifted in the center. Finish for yourself. Doesn't matter where I am or anyone else is. And let's come forward for a few breaths. Letting go as much as you can. Coming up, unfurling that spine, and let's come around and onto all fours. And taking a couple cats and cows there. All right, so let's find that neutral spine, pulling the belly and the ribs up long and flat against the ceiling, tucking the toes under, and we will extend the left leg back with those toes tucked under, pressing back into the heel. And then lifting that right thigh up. And can you feel that pull back in the right hip hinge a little, even as you pull the right knee forward? And then we're going to set that right shin down onto the floor, pressing the sitting bones down as much as you safely can, really stretching through that left leg. Same thing we did lying on the floor a moment ago. And then pick that right leg back up, move it back, bring the left leg in, and we'll do that on the other side. Extending the right leg back, toes tucked under, pressing into the heel. And then lifting that left thigh up, feeling a little pull back from the crease of the hip joint, pull the knee forward. Setting that shin down, reaching back through the right heel, pressing the hips down as much as you can. Nice long stretch along the front of the right thigh. And then picking the left leg up, setting it back, bring the right leg forward, a little wide with the knees, sitting back in child's pose, picking up the base of the wrist there on the pads of the fingers for a moment. And then softening over. And let's come up in downward facing dog. And as usual, walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. And then finding the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. Nothing moving but the breath. And let's come forward to the plank, long and flat against the ceiling. And a little bend in the elbows, pulling yourself forward and up into upward facing dog, setting the knees down, bending the knees, pressing that tailbone down, pulling the upper back and heels toward each other. Extend the legs out again, and coming back up and downward facing dog. And then looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave, back halfway up, folding over. And coming up to standing, big front body yawn. And all the way around to namaste. Or however you want to get there. All right, so let's get that block. If you don't have a block, you can just have an imaginary block. We're going to put the block between the thighs. Give it a little push back, and then you tuck the tailbone forward against that. So we're squeezing that block between the upper thighs. Probably feels terrible. All right, take a couple breaths here. Feeling that squeeze in of the thighs, but it's also a lengthen up that inner thigh, squeezing the block up, and then a little feeling of pushing it back at the same time. but without letting your tailbone stick out, hopefully. And let's do a couple half sun salutes, holding on to that block. Big inhale up, take a breath, and then diving over, holding on to that block as you come over. Concave back halfway up, folding over, and coming back up to standing. Big front body yawn, coming back around to namaste hands. And let's do that twice more. Inhale up, hold, and coming over. Concave back halfway up, folding over. And then coming up, squeezing that block all the way to namaste, taking a breath into Tadasana, and then we'll do that once more. So I'm not going to talk, so you can just focus on your own breath. And then here we all are in Tadasana. One more short thing with that block. That's Utkatasana, the chair pose. Squeeze the block, try to push it down and back. Where every breath in action here. And then let's take a twist to the right. So I'll be the mirror. Twisting to the right, wide arms. Hold that block a little more. Coming back to the center, twisting to the left. Keep holding that block. And back to the center. Sit a little more comfortably in that chair. And then coming up. Nice front body yawn. And around to namaste. And then with great relief, perhaps, we'll take that block out. And here we are at the front of our mat. And then your feet are hip distance apart or together. And see if you can feel that work from the block there. A little bit more strength on the inner thighs, a little bit more feeling of being strong in the center. And taking a big circle with the shoulders to interlock the fingers, lengthening up the front of the body, lift the chest to lift the chin, and coming over. Breathing out through the arms. And release the hands. And continuing as usual, concave back. Folding over through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And then feeling like you're holding that block for a moment in downward facing dog. And even as you lift that right leg up and the thighs are not next to each other, can you feel that little bit more strength pulling into the center line? Through to the lunge. And again, trying to find that feeling of holding the block as we come up in the high lunge. Nice and strong in the very upper inner groin there. And then let's twist to the right, bringing the left elbow to the right knee. Twisting right, a little diagonal forward, elbow to the knee. And then coming back up and bringing the arms up overhead again. And coming forward and lifting that left leg up in a sort of standing split, however high your left leg will go. Again, feeling those inner thighs pulling in toward each other. And then bringing the left leg down, and we're going to cross it behind the right leg. Time to squeeze it right in. Right knee probably has a little bit of a bend. And then squeeze in that crossed legs. And let's take a little lengthen out, and we'll see if we can twist to the right here. If that's too much, you don't need to do it. Maybe putting the block there under your left hand if you want, as we twist to the right. Squeeze those legs. And a big reach around with that right arm. Put the left leg back on its own side into the forward bend. Utkatasana, the chair pose on the way up. And then springing up into the front body yawn. Big circle halfway around to namaste in front. And let's take the tree pose here. So we'll bring our right leg up. And there's our foot and our left inner thigh against that center line. And then we'll do the left side, bringing that left leg up. And that squeeze in and up. And setting the left foot down. And then we'll do that all the way around on the left. Big inhale up. And exhale, diving over. Concave back, folding over through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. All right, here we go around with the left leg, lifting that left leg up. See if you can feel that squeezing in toward the center line. And then through to the lunge, coming up in the high lunge, holding on to that imaginary block between the thighs. And then we'll twist to the left, bringing the right knee to the left elbow, the right elbow to the left knee. And then making our way back up, coming up arms extend up. And coming down and lifting that right leg up in the air. Can you feel a little squeezing together of the thighs, even though they're actually more pulling apart? There's always an action and a reaction going on. And then bringing that right leg down, crossing it behind the left. Squeezing those feet together, close to each other as much as you can. Squeezing those upper inner thighs. So there ends up being a little front and back squeeze in here as well. And then let's try twisting to the left. Lengthen out, maybe getting your block for your right hand as we twist to the left. And letting that go, coming forward. Putting your right leg back where it belongs, next to the left. And Utkatasana, the chair pose, bending the knees. And then springing up into the front body, yawn. And all the way around to Namaste. And then let's do those tree poses once again. So we'll bring the left leg up first. Squeezing into the center line, even as we extend out the left inner thigh out the knee. Keep that breath going. And then we'll bring that left leg down. Now, balancing is the favorite place for breath holding, as you may know. Let's bring that right leg up. And bring that right leg down. Deep breath. So we're going to do dance of Parvati. So let me see. I will turn and face you and do the opposite. So a little bend in the knees, and we're going to take our left leg and cross it behind the right on the ball of the left foot. Squeeze those thighs together, hinging back like your Utkatasana. Holding on tight to those inner thighs. And then we will twist to the right, wide arms. And so we're both reaching down through that left arm and trying to lengthen up through the top of the head. And then bending that left arm into the half namaste. Taking your heart up and out through the front of the right shoulder, out the right fingertip. Sending it out. And then as we come back up, squeezing even more, putting that left leg back. Taking a breath, and then we'll do the other side. A little bend in the knees, right leg goes behind onto the ball of the right foot, squeezing the thighs together. hinging back. And then twisting to the left, wide arm. So I'm doing a reach down through the right fingertips there, but also a reach up and out. And then bending that right arm into the half namaste. Sending your heart up and out. And squeezing your way back up, bringing that right leg back next to the left. Here we are in the center, or in the front of our mat. And let's swoop the arms up. And interlock the fingers behind, rolling the shoulders out. And coming over, pressing out through the arms. Release the hands, concave back, folding over, jumping or stepping back through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel. The root to the lunge. And let's Parsvottanasana. So turning that left heel in a little, grounding it down, maybe adjusting the stance between the legs. Sometimes we want a little shorter than the lunge. And feeling that squeezing into the center line happening here. And let's lengthen out, and we will take a twist to the right. Pavrita Trikonasana. And then you can consider maybe that left hand could come up into the half namaste, the one on the floor. Maybe not. Probably want to come up a little higher if you're going to do that. And then coming down into the lunge. We'll go all the way to Anjayasana, bringing that left knee down. Coming forward and up. And bringing the arms down. And let's step back to the plank, through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And then let's try that on the left, lifting the left leg up. And through to the lunge. And straightening up the left leg, grounding the right heel down, maybe shortening the stance here. Parsvottanasana, taking a few breaths, just stretching over your left leg. And then twisting to the left, the rotated triangle, Pavrita Trikonasana. And And considering how one could take the right arm up into the half namaste here, I'm not entirely sure I can do it on this side. But one thing you might want to do is come up a little higher. Yeah, I can feel that my left hip isn't going to let me do it. And then even if you're not putting that right hand into the half namaste, you can do it with your imaginary arm. And letting that all come down. Bending that left knee, bringing the right knee down. Coming up in Vinyassana. Bringing those arms down. Stepping back to the plank. So let's all do that kneeling vinyasa that I like so much. No chaturanga or small chaturanga into upward facing dog. Letting the knees come down, pressing the tailbone down, lift the upper chest forward and up even more. Press that tailbone down more as you bend the knees. Straighten the legs out. And a little cat back ripple on our way back up to downward facing dog. And let's lift that right leg up, reaching long through the heel. The root to the lunge, and warrior number 2, the lateral lunge. And so here we're mostly pulling wide in those hips, but at the same time, there's a pull into the center. And let's dancing warrior, bringing the right arm up. And into the side angle. Big, long reach out, maybe elbow on the knee, maybe that arm comes down. And bringing that left arm over the ear. And maybe we can do that half namaste here. Bringing your left arm more up to the ceiling, a little extra lift up. Maybe that right arm can come around to the half namaste. So you could use a lot of support from that right leg if you want to, or less. And pull into the hinge of that right hip joint, pulling it back and through to the left foot. And then just taking a little windmill down, turning to the wide leg forward bend, Prasarita Padottanasana. And let's walk our hands over to the right foot toward the top of the mat. So I'm not being the mirror right now. And then walking your hands over to the left leg, the back leg, also known as the other leg. And coming back to the center. And then turning back to the right lunge. Stepping back to the plank. Let's do the kneeling vinyasa again, though you, of course, can always do whatever you like. Small chaturanga to upward facing dog. Pressing the tailbone down to bring the knees down. And then bending the knees, pulling the upper back and the heels toward each other. Extend the legs. A little ripple in the calf back. And up to downward facing dog. Taking 3 deep breaths there. So I'm just turning it around to face you again. And then we'll do that on the left. Lifting that left leg up. And through to the lunge. Warrior number 2. Make sure everything arrived. And then pulling wide, squeezing in. Finding the balance between those two. So we have one thing that we focus more on in certain poses, like in Warrior 2, it's the out, it's the width, but there's still that strong in the center. And Dancing Warrior, bringing the left arm up. And then a big reach out to the side angle, maybe left hand on the thigh, maybe coming down. Reaching long over the ear with that right arm. And then reaching that right arm up. Lift a little, maybe coming to the half namaste here. So you can use a lot of support from the left leg or a little support. Pulling back in that left crease of the hip joint. And then we'll just let that go. Turning to the wide leg forward bend. And then walking the hands toward the right leg, toward the back of the mat. And then toward the left leg, toward the front of the mat. And to the center. And then let's rotate those feet out. Coming up into the elephant rider, arms on those inner thighs, really going for the stretchy outiness. All right, and then find a little bit of that in strong to the center. Feel like you're dragging the heels in. And we're going to reach the arms out. So we're sort of doing chair pose in the temple pose or goddess pose here. How flat can you be to the floor? Keeping the knees bent, coming up as vertical as you can, pressing the tailbone down and forward, lifting up with the abdominal muscles. And straightening up, big three-pointed star. Pressing the arms wide, turning the feet to parallel. So let's see, I'll go back to being the mirror now. I hope that's not going to confuse everybody. So I will be the mirror. We're doing one side and then the other, so it'll all work out. Let's rotate our right leg out 90 degrees. And straighten it up again. Side bend away with that straight right leg. And into the triangle, Trikonasana. So we're not going to necessarily lift our left arm into the half namaste, though you could. But think about that. A little lift from the heart out those left fingertips. Keep breathing here, every breath renewing your presence. Reaching that left arm over the ear, long and flat for a moment up to the ceiling. And then pulling down, bending that right leg. We're going to pull the left leg forward into Matsayandrasana. And then if you can, taking that right leg down and across. So remember, I'm the mirror here. Into Gomukhasana, the cow face pose. So Matsayandrasana, that right foot would be on the floor, the knee up. In Gomukhasana, you're trying to get the knee down and the shin and foot going diagonally back. Another option is the cross-leg Sukhasana. All right, so let's feel those squeezing legs again, right up through the top of the head. And then breathing the arms up, and we'll interlock the fingers, turning the palms up, pressing up, trying to be long and flat against the wall behind you. And then release the hands, coming over forward. And you can change the position of the legs here. If your knees are getting weary of this cow face Gomukhasana, you can always switch to the crossed legs. And coming up. And we will just do a little turn toward the left, untangling ourselves ever so gracefully, walking out to the wide leg forward bend again. Arriving here for a breath or two. And then coming up, big front body yawn. Arms to parallel, turning the left leg out 90 degrees and make that leg straight again. And then bringing the left arm up side, bending away. And hinging over into the triangle on the other side. And you could think about that left arm coming up, doing that half namaste. Pouring your heart out the right fingertips. Couple more breaths here. And then reaching that right arm over the ear, long and flat. And reaching down to the lunge and bringing that right leg underneath the left, or however we get here. And we're in that Sandrasana, and then if it works for your knees and hips, making your way to Gomukhasana, the cow face pose, or the crossed legs, or whatever combination of those you want. And then squeezing together long through the top of the head. Breathing those arms up overhead to interlock the fingers, turning the palms up. Pressing up, grounding down, long and flat against the wall behind you. And then coming forward. And coming up. And a little twisting around to the right to disentangle those legs. Out into the wide leg forward bend. And then remember, we were just at the left side, making our way around and then doing this little variation. So we're going to turn to the left lunge, which is probably the front of our mat. Stepping back to the plank. And we'll do our bend knee bend knee vinyasa. A small chaturanga, maybe upward facing dog. Pressing the tailbone down, lifting the upper chest even more. Bending the knees. So like a floating Dhanurasana, the bow pose. And extend the legs back out. A couple cat and cow ripples. And you could go right to child's pose, or we'll take another downward facing dog, being a stretchy dog there. And then coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And coming up, and then coming down to the floor. And so we will do the bridge pose if you have the block and you want to do the combination straight legs on the block and regular bridge pose, or whatever combination you want to do in the bridge poses. So for those who just want to be told what to do, getting that block, putting it under the legs, rolling up block under the sacrum. So maybe like I'm doing here, trying the higher block since we're at the end of class and a little warmed up, if not worn out. And then straightening the legs. Breathing down the front of the hips again. And so if you're not doing this, you could be stretched flat on the floor, opening the front of the hips, or maybe you're doing a bridge pose already, or any other back bend. And then for those on the block, let's bend our knees. And getting those feet hip distance apart there and lifting up off the block. Maybe interlocking the fingers. Hopefully your arms fit around the block. Letting that breath expand and open your back bend even more. And then we'll make our way out to the block, rolling down, landing on the floor. And then we will go back to Supta Baddha Konasana. And this time, let's make the block under the shoulders the default. So actually, let's come up and take a little stretch in Konasana first, and then we'll come down. Just a little more opening of the inner thighs again after lots of squeezing. And then we'll bring those legs in, feet together, and coming down with the shoulders on the block. Using those hands to ease your neck up and over. Breathing into that upper chest. Taking a few more breaths here, and then we'll make our way to Shavasana. Calming down. We'll have to remember not to talk quietly. Calming down. Lengthening out along the floor. Choosing your arm position and just letting go, melting into the floor. And then breathing back into your body, into this room. Moving the fingers and toes, getting the circulation going. Stretching the arms up overhead. And making your way gently up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.